Welcome in, Braves Today, bravestoday.com, all brought to you by Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net, your free book from Ford today. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. And Lindsay, when we're looking for offseason stuff, nothing says offseason like Ronald Acuña Jr., apparently, who is going off over this winter break.
Yeah, he's in the Venezuela Winter League for the second straight year. He played in it last year with some restrictions, right? Like he didn't have full reign to do all of this stuff. This year, no restrictions. Baseball Reference has it at 15 total games. He's batting .443 with a .918 slugging percentage, 7 home runs, and 14 extra base hits in his 27 hits in 15 games. He averages 2 hits a game in Venezuela.
He's just nuts. Absolutely the highlights that we've seen thus far, and it's all internet related. It's Twitter related. Yeah. I doubt there's a ton of media from Atlanta as well as the Southeast in general, or Major League Baseball for that matter, that's down there covering any of this. It's usually a fan video that gets shown on social media that gets shared around, but he is hitting absolute missiles right now as far as from the plate. And they've even shown a couple of plays from the field. They've shown his arm off a little bit. I mean, this is something that I think it's good because it keeps how much were we complaining about the time off that cost Atlanta as far as the playoffs were concerned, and their bats getting slowed down because the fact that they weren't able to face live pitching or they weren't able to play any sort of organized ball during that time. It seems like a lot of these guys are doing this. We talked about it. Grissom's in Puerto Rico. He's down here in the Venezuelan League. How important is this for these players to do this during the offseason?
If you ask Ronald Acuña, he would say it's very, very important. He directly pointed a line or drew a line from coming to winter ball last year and getting those 10 games in with his MVP performance in 2023, and talked about he was able to be in a competitive environment, but at least like a less critical environment, less pressure environment, and get full confidence back in his abilities and his knee and his speed and all of his stuff. So he finds it rather important. And honestly, the season's not incredibly long. They've played 40-something games. He's only been there for 15 because he was late getting there. The season ends the end of December. He'll have a good 6 weeks off before the team's expected to report for spring training. And to me, it's something where while there's a little bit of injury risk, Mets prospect infielder Ronnie Mauricio tore his ACL just the other day in one of the winter leagues. At the same time, that could happen in spring training. Gavin Lux, shortstop for the Dodgers, tore his ACL in spring training. It wasn't the WBC's fault. So there is a little bit of injury risk, but he says it helps him. And Snitker mentioned this. He's a ball player. He wants to play baseball. This is what he finds enjoyment in doing. It gives him a chance to practice stuff and to build that confidence. And while I would hate to see him get hurt, I'm totally fine if this is what he chooses to do for a limited portion of his winter. And I do, as much as I hate to say it too, it's not like he was playing that deep until October. So he did get a break after the season before he went down there. Unfortunately.
Exactly. I mean, he's had a lot happen in this last year. MVP, got married, and now he's playing in the Venezuelan League. How much is too much, though? I ask you that now. They've played 40-plus games. They're going to end at the end of December. He's played in 15. What are we looking at? Maybe 20, 22 games that he gets in?
I would say going off the calendar, there's probably about, I think his team is not lined up to be in the postseason. So I want to say it's probably 10, 15 more games. He's probably halfway through that stretch. They just had their home run derby, which he won, of course. Of course he won it. And so, 10, 15 more games. I think it's fine. I think anything more than, 30 or so games, you start to wonder, okay, how much is too much? But think about when we send prospects to the Arizona Fall League. That ends up being 25 or 30 games over a couple weeks. I'm confident knowing that he played in so many games in the regular season, but then got that break off in the month of October, that he can probably handle 20 to 30 games, get a good break in January into February before he comes back for spring training. I think that's probably okay. If it was more than 30 total games, I'd be like, okay, maybe you need to take a little more time off. But I think this is fine. And besides, going off the stats, he's not being challenged a ton. He's batting .443 with a .918 slugging, not a .918 OPS, a .918 slugging. It's a little absurd.
Really quick before I move on and talk about him coming back, I saw a tweet a little bit earlier today, and it was from a Braves fan, and I didn't go ahead and look it up. This was right before we came on, and it was according to some site in regards to baseball, his moment, the 40-70 moment or 70-40 moment, ever how you want to refer to it. I've seen it seen two different ways, was ranked as number 2 in all of baseball this past year. And the Braves fan said, well, who was number 1?
Yeah.
I mean, this is something that's never been done in baseball. I don't know how you put that down at number 2. So he clearly is something that is special. Now, he'll get another little bit of a break because he does fly home. He's going to accept the Hank Aaron Award, which is going to be handed out here rather soon. So he'll come home for a little bit, do that for a couple of days is what they said, and then he'll head back, and I guess he'll wrap the season down there.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's the 3rd Atlanta Brave to win it. It's the top hitter in each league. Freddie Freeman won it in 2020. Andrew Jones won it in 2005. If it's a position player that wins MVP, usually they win the Hank Aaron Award. So excited that he's going to have it simply because it is named after, one of our players. Again, 3rd time that Atlanta Brave has won this. But he gets a break, then he'll go back, he'll finish up. It's fine. I think it's not too much. And honestly, he's at the point maturity-wise where I think he understands a little bit better what he needs to do and not do to be in shape for the regular season and to ensure that he's healthy. I think this last season, looking at how the strikeout rate dropped significantly and all of that, we saw some growth from Ronald Acuña Jr. And I think at this point, we probably need to trust him a little bit on stuff like this.
Well, speaking of trust, speaking of maturity, what does this say about his work ethic for those that call him lazy, that say he's immature, that say he's not a good teammate? We don't say that as Braves fans. You see that a lot go around, not necessarily the league as much as it is outside fans that look at him.
Honestly, haters gonna hate. I mean, I could see how if you were not a fan of the Braves, if you actively disliked the Braves, you were in Philadelphia or Washington or Miami or whatever, New York, that you could pick out individual things, times where he pimped a ball that ended up being a single or double off the wall or whatever. Yeah. You could pick and choose moments and use that to build a case that he wasn't a great teammate or that he was lazy or whatever. I think given what he showed last year, that he wanted to play in every single game, and he only missed a game because of injury. It's not like they sat him or anything. And then the maturity that I mentioned earlier, I think it's kind of clear now that that kind of stuff was a little bit overblown. Some of it was growing pains that most young players have. The next guy will be Jared Kelenic. As soon as he goes and hits a home run against the Mets to beat the Mets, you're going to hear them talking about, how immature he is. He kicked the cooler and broke his foot last year. And you're going to hear the same things about Jared Kelenic. And so it's overblown, and I feels like it's pretty much in the past. And some of that, honestly, felt like it was a little bit of a clash between some of the old school guys in the clubhouse, like a Freddie Freeman, and the newer, younger players like a Ronald Acuña Jr. that are flashy, that are showboaty, but also are still trying to respect the game by playing as hard as they can.
Thank you, Ford Stokes, and the fine folks at Active Wealth Management. Go to annuity360.net, your free book. As I'm telling you, only 1% of financial advisors have access to the nationwide Peak 10 Fixed Indexed Annuity, and Ford is offering it to all of you Braves viewers and listeners. There are no advisory or portfolio fees either with the product. Ford wants to help you get more free, efficient, tax efficient, and market efficient with your portfolio, and you can do so right away. Be sure to call him, 770-685-1777. That's 770-685-1777, or go to activewealth.com for more information. You can also go to annuity360.net for that free book, as you see that written below us. Again, Active Wealth and Ford Stokes helping us out. Get to coaches, as that was announced this past week. We didn't get to that over the weekend pod. So talk about, what has come about over the last couple of days transaction-wise. It looks like Snitker has filled his staff with first, third, and a pen coach.
Yeah, so Matt Tuiasosopo was the AAA manager in Gwinnett the last 3 seasons. He has been promoted to the third base job in Atlanta. When it first came out that Ron Washington was leaving, and I wrote the candidates for the third base job, Tuiasosopo was one of those guys because he was the go-to fill-in when Ron Washington couldn't be there. Ron Washington missed time last year to go to New Orleans to accept an award, and they called Tuiasosopo up for the series. So he slots into that. It's his first time he's been a major league coach. So that's exciting. He gets to come to the majors for the first time. And he will share infield responsibilities with bench coach Walt Weiss. So it's not all on Tuiasosopo. He'll split it with Weiss. They also took Tom Goodwin, a little bit of an older guy in his mid-50s, but he's been an experienced first base coach in the major leagues before. He was with the Red Sox. He won a World Series with them. Before the Red Sox, he was with the Mets. He spent the last 2 years as a roving instructor in the system. So he's been going around the different farm leagues, the different farm teams, coaching up players and things like that, kind of doing individual stuff. And then they did bring somebody from outside the organization, and Eric Abreu. He comes over from the Houston Astros organization. He's been a pitching coach in the minor leagues. He actually succeeded Brian Snitker's son as the pitching coach in AAA. And so I guarantee you this is partly where it came from, is Troy was talking to his dad and mentioned, I think Eric would be great with you guys. And so that's probably how that connection was made. But he's gone all the way through Houston's system. Obviously, Houston thinks enough of Atlanta where they hired away one of our assistants to be their GM. Now we've hired one of their coaches to come over here and be our bullpen coach. It's a tough job, but it also makes me feel good about if you're looking for some sort of deal to come in place next year, you have a coach that is very familiar with Houston's farm system. They've done a pretty good job at developing pitchers, especially international signees. You've seen this is a guy, obviously, who's been all through their minor leagues. So I like the whole aspect of 2 of these guys have never been major league coaches before. So you're giving guys new opportunities, 37 and 40, and then Goodwin as your veteran to come in as his third different job as a base coach in the major league. So I like that dynamic there. You have some young guys, you have some older guys. It's not just a bunch of kind of not old men, but a bunch of grizzly veterans like you had with Washington and Eric Young Sr.
Well, as I thought that, and I was hoping you'd go there with that. I thought there may be a Snitker connection right there with his son
Troy
and being out in Houston. And my next thing was, as I've told you before, and this was right after we lost Wash, and he decided to step away and become a manager again. As I said, it doesn't matter who the third base coach is. There's about 4 or 5 of the guys that are never going to listen to him anyway and are just going to run through the stop sign. So we need somebody that's over there just to be a placeholder and be a good guy in the dugout at some point in time, and maybe some situational times from. That's the one thing that you would see out of Washington and EY is they were constantly getting in the ears of the players and just reminding them, this is where we are situation-wise. So when you get some veteran guys that are still willing to do that and just keep their brain in the right spot instead of getting a little too excited, because we see some of our younger guys that, especially even Ronald, he's still young. Let's call it what it is. He would love to steal base every single time he gets on, but you're going to need some guys over there that has some situational awareness that can just give them gentle reminders, as I call it, from time to time. And I think that's what Snit went for.
And a dynamic that we haven't necessarily had before. Eric Abreu is originally from the Dominican Republic, and so now you have an authority figure in that room that is of Latin American descent, and those kind of things do matter. Your veteran presence among the international players in the most recent years has been Marcell Ozuna, and so this gives you another veteran voice to the Latin American players who they can, hopefully relate to and be able to confide in if something goes on. And it's worth pointing out that Marcell Ozuna is a free agent after 2024. And so if he does move on, you have the ability to still have a veteran leader.
60.net for your free book. He's Lindsay Crosby. I'm Ben Taylor. Braves Today, Braves_today on Twitter, and BravesToday.com for all of the recent articles that we have up. Lindsay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, buddy.